guys, Ryan Fowler here with another episode of Inner Masculine Live. And today we're going to do sort of a continuation of yesterday. We have another really good clip on trauma, childhood trauma, excuse me, how it affects our lifelong behavior, lifelong health, lifelong, emotional and physical health. And I'm going to point out something at the end. This clip that we're going to look at really dives into how common trauma is, how severe it is, how pervasive it is in our society. At the end, he's a good guy. He gets something wrong. And what he gets wrong is they really don't know how to address this issue, how to effectively heal it, because their methods are inefficient and take a long time to address trauma, and oftentimes only partially address the issue. So after we play the clip, we'll talk about a little bit about what I do. And again, I'm not a medical practitioner, so I'm not giving any medical advice. When people come to me, I'm not diagnosing their mental illness or doing anything like that. But part of what I do does involve releasing bad subconscious programs, which is really synonymous with childhood trauma. We get these out of you, and if people don't get these out of them, it can stay with them the rest of their life, haunt them the rest of their life. The good news, you can watch, again, I have over a dozen interviews of this point on people who have used the techniques and methods I've used, who've done sessions with me, and oftentimes a good chunk of this trauma can be released very quickly. And so we'll go into that after the clip, but it's a very good clip. I'm doing this in two parts, trauma yesterday and trauma today, because honestly, it's one of the biggest problems our society faces. And it's something so well hidden. You have all these traumatized people walking around, and you don't see what happened to them in their childhood. You don't see the pain that's in them. You don't see the inner wounds that's in them. And so this issue is actually far more common than people thought. And they're going to talk about this in this clip. But even those who don't have severe trauma, maybe it's moderate childhood trauma or mild, it's still something plaguing people the rest of their life. And it doesn't have to be that way. There are solutions out there. So let me go ahead and play this clip. And then we'll take it from there. And I'll just be commenting here and there as appropriate. So here we go.
What we found in the ACE study involving 17,500 middle-class adults was that life experiences in childhood that are lost in time and then further protected by shame and by secrecy and by social taboos against inquiry into certain realms of human experience, that those life experiences play out powerfully and proportionately a half century later in terms of emotional state, in terms of biomedical disease, in terms.
But by the way, according to Andrew Tate, there's no such thing as depression as a permanent state. So I guess this is all bullshit. It's not really trapped in your body, right? Also, Alex Hormozy, I guess he was wrong that you could just decide to think something. No, that's not the case. This guy is going to show you that there are long-term biochemical, physiological effects of trauma. It's not just something just temporary. Oh, just think differently, boom, fixed. No, let's go on.
In terms of life expectancy. In 1985, I first became interested in developmental life experiences in early childhood, really by accident. In the major obesity program we were running, a young woman came into the program. She was 28 years old and weighed 408 pounds, asked us if we could help her with her problem, and in 51 weeks took her from 408 to 132. And thought, well, my God, we've got this problem licked. This is going to be a world famous department here. She maintained her weight at 132 for several weeks, and then in one 3-week period regained 37 pounds in 3 weeks, which I had not previously conceived as being physiologically possible. That was triggered by being sexually propositioned at work by a much older man.
Okay, so let's pick this apart. So what I tell people is, also, it's going to be in my ebook coming out. Just go to, you see on the screen, innermasculine.com for ebook. I'm going to talk about this in the ebook. You can just put in your email. You're going to get it as soon as that's released. But what he is talking about here, hold on.
She described him. And
what I tell people is that a subconscious program is a belief that forms in childhood. The bad ones form from trauma, from things that happen and you interpret it and it traumatizes you. Obviously, she had some sexual molestation or other issues in childhood. And what happens is these beliefs, as you get older, they're buried down in your psyche. But anytime there's anything in the outside world that is a match for this traumatic belief in you, it triggers the feeling tied to that traumatic belief, which is a very painful feeling. And in this case, something happened as an adult that was a match for a belief form tied to some sort of abuse she had as a child. And it was such severe abuse. That's why she's 408 pounds. Such severe abuse, it triggered it. Super painful, put her into a tailspin. In 3 weeks, she gained 37 pounds, over 12 pounds a week. I see this time and time and time again. It's what happens. You get triggered, these traumatic beliefs, when they come to the surface. Even if they don't come to the surface, they're messing you up. She is 408 pounds, but when they get triggered, they can really cause problems. And so a big part of what I do is find these bad, painful subconscious programs. We get it out with hypnosis and other techniques, but mostly hypnosis.
In short order, she was back over 400 pounds faster than she had lost the weight. I remember asking her why the extreme response. After initially claiming not to have any understanding of why the extreme response, ultimately she told me of a lengthy incest history with her grandfather from age 10 to age 21.
See, told you.
Ultimately, it turned out that 55% of the people in our obesity program acknowledged a history of childhood sexual abuse. I mean, that obviously is not the only issue going on, but it was where we began. And as we went down that trail, then we discovered other forms of abuse, also growing up in massively dysfunctional households, etc. And the ACE study was really designed to see whether these things existed at all in a general population, and if so, how did they play out over time?
So just think about, there are broadcasters right now in the red pill community who are like, look at this fat loser, and they're shaming these people. Now, some people are overweight because they don't have discipline and they don't have these really bad traumatic issues. But think about these life coaches or broadcasters or whatever that are shaming people for struggling with weight, shaming people for not doing the work. They have no freaking clue about the severe effect that trauma has and how it can just really mess people up. And the people that are shaming others, they don't have these issues. Or maybe they have them, but they're affecting those people in another way, in a way that maybe they can hide, in a way that maybe isn't as obvious.
We studied 10 categories of adverse life experience that were chosen because of their prevalence in the weight program: childhood sexual abuse, heavy-duty childhood physical abuse, I'm not talking spanking, major emotional abuse, recurrent humiliation, 2 categories of neglect, growing up in a home where one of the members of the household was chronically depressed, suicidal, mentally ill, or in the state hospital, growing up in a home without both biological parents, growing up in a home where one of the members of your household was alcoholic or a drug user, growing up in a home where mother was beaten, growing up in a home where one of the members of your household was imprisoned during your childhood or adolescence. Those were the 10 categories. In a middle-class population, 1 in 11 people has experienced 6 or more of those adverse life experiences in childhood.
Think about that. All 10 are severe. 1 in 11 have 6. That's insane. What percent of our population has 1 out of the 10, which is still enough to cause you big problems?
So this is very common, totally unrecognized. It was difficult for us to accept their commonness, but on the other hand, these are issues that most people never touch. And so who would know without routinely asking? But at a so-called ACE score 6, experiencing any 6 of the 10 categories that we studied, that person was 4,600% more likely to become an IV drug user than a person who had experienced none of those 10 categories. Okay.
Oh, but it's all in your head. Depression isn't real, right, Andrew Tate? None of this has anything to do with it. The guy just needs $1 million and a hot girl and he won't be depressed. That's an Andrew Tate quote. He's full of shit, guys. He's brilliant in a lot of things, but on this, he's full of shit. And the other red pill commentators along those lines, they're full of shit too. I'm saying it right now. Here's the science. You cannot ignore this. I have people come to me. I fix them, then they freaking take off. Other people, the people who are judging others, saying they're a loser, whatever, they can't help those people. But I get results.
Okay. Now, you think you read in the newspaper the latest cancer scare of the week, prostate cancer or breast cancer increases 30% and everyone goes nuts. I'm talking 4,600% increase. The same ACE score of 6 produces a likelihood of attempting suicide that is between 3,100 and 5,000% greater than the likelihood of suicide attempts in someone with none of those life experiences. So the power of this relationship is enormous. So ultimately, the question arises, how do life experiences in childhood end up with disease states a half century later? There are at least 2 big categories to account for that. One is through the use of various coping devices. One smokes to feel better, one overeats to feel better, one drinks to relax, etc. And those things carried out in heavy amounts have major destructive patterns, even though they may be immediately beneficial. The other broad category has to do with the effect of chronic major unrelieved stress on the workings of one's brain and central nervous system. In recent years, this is relatively new, it's become clear that chronic major unrelieved stress can produce the release of pro-inflammatory chemicals in a person's body and also can suppress immune system function. Of the 10 categories that we studied, any 6 of them produces a shortening in life expectancy of almost 20 years. The magnitude of this problem is so huge, and the complexity of dealing with it after the fact is so huge, that realistically the only serious approach is going to have to involve primary prevention. No one knows how to do that, but it's the right question to focus on.
Okay, and that's the one area where I disagree with this guy. I mean, this is a sincere guy. He's devoting his life to helping people. So, respect and appreciation to him for bringing this to light. Yeah, I do think we got to do primary prevention. Prevention. We got to find a way to educate parents how to better parent their children so as not to traumatize and result. But here's the issue I see. These parents have trauma. Until you... Internal trauma drastically affects your behavior, affects how you treat others because of trapped anger you have in you, trapped shame you have in you. It's going to be just educating is going to be impossible by itself to get a traumatized parent who maybe BPD or just whatever they have, that leads them to be critical, controlling, angry, violent, shut down so that they neglect their child. What you need to do is you need to clear the trauma in the parents, which is doable. It can be done now. And once the kid's subconscious, I would say maybe around 15, you can start doing hypnosis. You might be able to do hypnosis earlier. I'm just not experienced in doing hypnosis for children. But you can put up some comments here. Heavily also depends on the narrative, on the event. People like Tate had good parents. Tate's parents, if you look into it, were actually very dysfunctional. His dad was rarely there, and he described his own mom as a very cruel, mean person. So Tate did not have a good childhood, by the way. Yeah, Tate is traumatized. That's why he has the issues that he has. That's just how it is. But trauma, internal emotional trauma, there are techniques out there for resolving it. And I'm not saying everything gets resolved overnight. What happens with me, let's say someone comes to me, I'm not taking it from the medical standpoint because I'm not licensed as a mental health therapist or any of that. But I take it from the standpoint of this person doesn't believe in themselves. This person believes they have no value. They don't believe they deserve good things. They have trapped anger over being treated unfairly, abused, betrayed, whatever. So I go in and release that in hypnosis. You can watch this testimonials. The reason I keep pointing at this testimonials is I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm trying to show you guys this stuff really works. People don't need to struggle like this. There are people coming to me and like they have trauma and boom, it's like getting out like that. And I talk about the layers of the onion, meaning I don't get all your 36 bad subconscious programs out at once. I get maybe 2 to 4 is pretty typical, but it varies. Sometimes 5, sometimes 1 per session. Maybe I get it 60% out. Maybe I get it 100% out. But we get the worst programs out first. And so you see a dramatic change, oftentimes a dramatic change with people. Sometimes it's more subtle. But you see these permanent benefits like that. Why? Because we get trauma out. We get the worst stuff out, and then they're better. And they have other stuff to release, but maybe the next stuff isn't quite as bad. Well, we get that out, and then the next stuff to get out isn't quite as bad. So you actually see, and I've done this for myself. I used to be a train wreck. So, I had manic depression, general anxiety disorder, all that. Self-hypnosis healed it. I've done some sessions. There was one hypnotist I did a session with. She was pretty good. Another guy didn't really help me, but this one lady was pretty good. So I know firsthand what it's like to be traumatized, how absolutely crippling it can be, how absolutely it can mess you up. And it is actually a biological, physiological state of these. It affects your body biologically and physiologically. It's not just, oh, you're thinking bad thoughts. Think good thoughts. Get a hot girl. Make $1 million. Go to the gym. Then you're going to be better. That does not fix this trauma. It will help some people in some ways, and I think people should go to the gym. I think people should try and be successful financially and have a successful dating life. Trust me, I'm doing that. I'm chasing after that. But for many people by itself, they're either not going to be able to get that, or they'll get that and they'll still be heavily traumatized, and they'll be like a Kurt Cobain, like a Marilyn Monroe, like the guy that played Tommy Boy. He had a lot of trauma. Not is David Spade's friend, Chris Farley. You see it. A lot of dysfunctional, wounded people go to Hollywood. So you see constantly the struggles that they have. So let's go on to some more of these comments here. Yesterday, I talked about inserting good beliefs. You can explain that a bit more. Yes, excellent question, Spark 55. I will. So this is where hypnosis is unique. And I'm a fan of psychedelics. I have never taken a psychedelic, but I've seen the positive results it's had in people who come to me. Again, it's not medical advice, but watch that Netflix show, How to Change Your Mind. And I have known people who have benefited from, ketamine, MDMA, some other stuff. like that. I'm a fan of EMDR. I did a session for a very high level EMDR practitioner. What was very interesting is he said what I did was almost identical to what he did. Most EMDR professionals aren't that great. That's, a lot of hypnotists are not that great. But if it's done correctly, it can be very, very good, powerful tool. But the unique thing about hypnosis is I don't just go in and find your bad, painful, traumatic subconscious beliefs and get them out. I do that. That's the first thing we do. We start with anger, resentment, rage, because that's an act of holding on. You let that go. Everything's easier to let go. So then we let go of the other traumas. And then once the bad's out, we can now put good stuff in. Well, what's the good stuff that we put in? Well, we put in unconditional self-love, unconditional self-acceptance. You believe you have intrinsic value, that you are good enough no matter what, just for who you are. You don't need to do or say anything to have this value. You just have it. In fact, there's nothing you can do or say to lose it. The reason we put this in is because, you can debate all day long. Hey, is this a correct belief? Do you really have intrinsic value? What if this person's a bum? Well, you can debate that all along, but what cannot be debated is when you get that belief system in you, it is the best belief system that serves you the best. Because if you have value, no matter what, then if you take a risk and fail, you're still good enough. Guess what? Your fear of fail goes way the hell down. Now you're not afraid of failing, because the people who are afraid of failing say, man, if I take this risk and I fail, I'm a loser. Those are the people who will procrastinate and put stuff up, put stuff off. Or if they say, and by the way, I know this works because when I fix it, people stop procrastinating. Just FYI. There's other techniques we use. There's something called life gamification, etc. But this is by far number one. So some people say, I have this stuff to do. What if I don't do it? If I don't do what I should, I'm angry at myself and I feel like a loser because I didn't do the work. Ironically, if you understand how our subconscious mind works, the potential pain of not doing what we should, linked to these things we should do, actually makes your brain not want to do it, because your brain, in the last video on trauma, this guy said your cockroach brain, this ancient part of your brain that has fight or flight in it, fight, flight, freeze. All that part of your brain sees is, here's a situation with potential pain tied to it, even if the pain comes from not doing it. And so if you feel bad for not doing what you feel you should be doing, you feel like a loser for that, that will actually give you anxiety or resistance or make you want to procrastinate, because your brain is linking potential pain to these things that you must do in order to be good enough. There are two different types of motivational archetypes. So the second motivational the first one is, you just avoid anything that can lead to pain. And, in extreme cases, these are the couch potatoes, unemployed. And I've had people like that who were unemployed, who couldn't hold down a job, did sessions for them, 6 figures now, 3 sessions. That was the Brent Caldwell experience. Go to that interview. He talks about that. And, he got certified as a hypnotherapist, as a certified hypnotist. So subconscious programs are painful. This pain makes your body react adversely. It makes you behave adversely. We get that out. We put in these good beliefs that feel good. Oh, I have value just for who I am. There's no pain tied to doing what you want to do now. There's no, I'm going to be a loser if I don't do it. I'm going to be a loser if I fail. That pain's gone. It's a good belief. I have value regardless. Now you are free to move forward. There is a difference, and what people confuse, there's a difference between your value as a human being, a human soul, and getting what you want. And you see some traumatized people who say, oh, the world owes me this. I should get this without having to work for it. No, that's not the beliefs we put in you. The beliefs we put in you is you have value just for who you are. And if you do the work, you can get what you want. Of course, you have to do the work, but getting what you want it does not serve us to equate our intrinsic value with our level of success or getting what we want. It messes people up, because if you tie your value to your success or failure, you are not on a steady boat. You are on a boat that can sink with the slightest storm. it's such a much more stable ideology to believe I have value no matter what. So if I fail, I still have value, no big deal. If I approach that attractive girl and she rejects me, I still have value, no big deal. If I don't approach her, I'm just not feeling it, I still have value, no big deal. So I don't have approach anxiety because I don't approach her, or approach anxiety because I approach her and get rejected. Now you're free. Now you can move forward. We put the belief in you. Here's a belief I put in people, and this is true. Those who succeed the most first fail the most because they try the most and they try the hardest things. Look at Thomas Edison. Invented the light bulb, went down in history, failed 1,000 times first. Very tough problem to solve. But the reason he got, the reason he went down in history is he kept trying until he did succeed. He plowed through all those failures, kept trying. Those who succeed the most first fail the most because they try the most and they try the hardest things. So the cool thing about hypnosis is first we go in, I have a technique called Dive with a 5. We go in and we find the bad subconscious beliefs with painful emotions tied to them. We get those out, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or whatever per session. Typically 60 to 100% of the trauma that issues resolved. I tell people get the rest out with self-hypnosis. Again, self-hypnosis. Boom, that's out. Now we put this good stuff in. And that's when people really take off. We don't just get the bad out, but we replace it with the best beliefs. So let's see. Next question. How do you choose which good beliefs to insert? We choose the beliefs that give you the most maximum benefit. We choose the beliefs that lead you to be the most confident, that lead you to be happiest, that lead you to generally kick the most ass in life. It's all results driven. What I do is results driven. The reason I do this is because I had manic depression. I, went to therapist and it helped somewhat, but it took forever. And then I found this, and it 2 months cured the rest of my depression. Something that 15 years of therapy, there's like a big chunk you couldn't touch. 2 months, boom, totally gone. I mean, big results, even much sooner than that, within a week. And I said, wow, this is so powerful. And then I see other people using it. And I used it to just fix anxieties, just so many things. My income doubled again. And I use this because it's powerful. It's effective. It's the strongest overall methodology I know. Psychedelics and EMDR will resolve bad trauma. I might not be 100% on this on EMDR. I'll have to look it up. But I don't think EMDR puts good belief systems in to replace the bad. It might. I'm not sure. I'll have to check that out. But psychedelics don't. Psychedelics can dissolve painful trauma, which is awesome. But they don't put these targeted, amazing, good beliefs in like hypnosis does. And hypnosis is very flexible. I mean, my clients are all over the world because 99% of my sessions are not in person. It's done over Zoom. It still works magnificently. And then I give people self-hypnosis and they clear all sorts of stuff on themselves. And I have people call, had a guy contact me. He's like, you don't know me, but I did your self-hypnosis program and I lost 50 pounds. And then I got rid of all this anger and everything. My life's so much better. And he just wanted to say thank you. Never did a session for him. I have people I've never done live sessions for turn their life around with self-hypnosis. So it's just the best methodology. In addition to that, there's other techniques we use because, let's see what P-Dub says here. Because you also have to address your subconscious mind. You have to address your mindset, your conscious mental models, your self-talk. You want to be able to handle things in the moment when they come up. And so, I think cognitive behavioral therapy has its place. I think it's a tool in the toolbox and it's useful. I think self-talk, all of that, affirmations, meditation, all of that. It's a tool in the toolbox. They each have their own place. So you should use these other techniques first. If you first don't succeed, try again. Yeah. And what we put in people, and this is what I put in people, the belief I put in people, and this is absolutely 100% true. The failing does not affect your value. Didn't affect Thomas Edison's value at 1,000 failures before his one success. Who cares about his failures? He succeeded in the end. But the more you do anything, the better you get at it until you have enough skill to get what you want. That's another thing I put in people. And it's absolutely true. When someone first starts a sport, like playing basketball or you know, any skill, playing an instrument, playing guitar. I'm new at marketing. I'm new at YouTube podcasting, and you're going to see incremental improvements. You know, there's been times where early on I didn't know how to loop my cord around, so my camera went out. You know, just live on air. You know, I'm going to adjust my camera angle. I'm going to start putting in thumbnails and other stuff. You know, going to start doing video shorts. So what I'm doing right now, start out, you know, beginner level. I do it more. I get better and better. That's how it is with everything. You just need to keep going. But if people have fear of failure in them, instead of saying, hey, this is practicing, the more I do it, the better I get, they give up. They get discouraged. And they never know what could have been because they attach their value to their performance, not realizing that, listen, the more you do anything, the better you get. You just need to keep going. You just need to keep practicing, learning, and growing. Keep putting one foot in front of the other until you get enough skill to get what you want. It's absolutely a true statement. We can't control the time frame in which that we can control the time frame to a point, but we can't control it completely. But what we can control is the more you do anything, the better you get at it until you get enough skill to get what you want. Or maybe you learn, oh, I did this for a while. I decided this isn't for me. Fine. Go do something else. Now you learn something. You learned that wasn't for you. Okay. Go to something else. Get really good at that. Oh, wow. This is what I want. This is great. Now I'm successful. You know, now I'm happy. So we put these belief systems deep down in your subconscious, and it has a massive effect, just like these painful, deep down subconscious traumas that happen in people's childhood can hold them back, mess them up for the rest of their lives. These good beliefs can do the opposite. They can propel you forward and just get you kicking major ass, being naturally, authentically confident, naturally, authentically, overall happy, feeling good, believing in yourself, believing in your ability and value. Hey, I can do this if I keep at it. And you know what? I want to do this. And it's worth it. So I'm just going to do it. You get these deep down beliefs in you. Now these beliefs are serving you. It's all about putting that in you, which helps you the most. Who cares if it's right or wrong? If it's a win-win, if everyone's winning, if you're kicking ass now, put that belief in you that gets you kicking ass and feeling good and believing in yourself. And then you get big success. So you don't try no more, you just do. Yeah, so, you know, habits, if you do habits long enough, it just becomes innate. It does see, you know, external stuff over a long period of time does eventually become a subconscious program, even as adults. You can't just resolve trauma by saying happy thoughts every day, you know, happy sayings every day for 10 years. That's not how it works. I mean, that could help. Don't get me wrong. But even as adults, there's still stuff we can get in our subconscious without hypnosis. But hypnosis, it just accelerates it. It greatly accelerates it. Let's see what else we got. Got now. This is a very interesting question. I'm really impressed with how wise you are. Thank you. Where did you learn all that? So I had to learn it to get myself better. So I'm kind of an interesting character as well because, you know, my day job that I just quit, it was a very technical field. I mean, you can go on Amazon and look up my book. I wrote a book with a PhD who also, he was an emeritus professor of Northeastern University. He had 2 law degrees, a PhD and MBA, Dr. Arnold Goldstein. So my prior field was protecting people's wealth from lawsuits, some niche tax stuff, estate planning. I would set up a lot of companies and trusts, do some very complicated planning. I had a few clients worth over 100 million. Many clients were 1 to 10 million, a lot of 20, 30 million to, you know, 50, etc. And I was self-taught. So I just happened to, you know, I took some online courses. I read the Internal Revenue Code, which is extremely difficult at first. I was self-taught, and the direction I gave myself is I researched and I wrote 2 books on this subject. The second one I wrote with Dr. Goldstein. So I'm kind of that self-starter with complicated subjects. It's just my niche. I got that gift. I got that brain to take, you know, survey a vast amount of data, throw out the stuff that doesn't apply, thoroughly understand the stuff that does, combine it in new ways for unique solutions. So I got the gift. That's my gift. You know, I have shortcomings to my eyesight, bad peripheral vision, bad night vision, bad depth perception. I'd say socially, I've learned how to be good socially, but that was not a natural talent at all. So everyone has, you know, good and bad. But when it came to hypnosis now, understanding your subconscious, understanding all of this, I was raised in a family with a lot of trauma, a lot of dysfunction, a lot of manipulation, control, guilt, shame, a lot of insidious, covert machinations, emotional straitjacket, just tons of toxic shame, tons and tons and tons of toxic shame. So because of that, by age 19, I developed extreme depression with mild manias. It's the worst diagnosis for depression. You know, they're like borderline, and then mild, and then moderate, and then severe, and then extreme. I had extreme with mild manias. It was the mild manias are still pretty notable, because when you go manic, you just really are super productive. But if you go really manic, then you start just doing irrational, destructive stuff. That's where you're going to get drunk and race 120 miles an hour down the roadway and get in a wreck. I wasn't at that level of mania. I was just very, very productive, very charismatic, very high energy when I had my manias, but my depressions were extremely bad. And I struggled with that. Now, I went through therapy, and it fixed about 60% over 15 years. It took forever. The last few years didn't do anything. And so I had searched for decades on how to fix my suffering. And I'm 49 now. At about 38, I found a method, type of self-hypnosis. The lady doesn't call it self-hypnosis. She calls it energy healing. It's all the same thing. It gets you in a hypnotic state. You go inside, you find bad subconscious programs, you get them out. Whatever you get out is gone forever. Maybe it takes 4 sessions. I'm talking about self-hypnosis, which live hypnosis with a really skilled practitioner, it tends to be more effective, because like I'm hardcore. I go through it until it's gone as much as I can. But self-hypnosis, some stuff, maybe it takes 1 session, 2, 3, 4, listening to this audio to get out, but then it's gone forever. So I searched and searched and searched to end my suffering. And then I found a solution. It was so powerful, and it's like, holy crap, I've changed my entire life. You know, this methodology goes right to the core at the deepest level and get the stuff out that other methodologies can't reach. And so when I found it happened with me, this same brain I used to, understand the Internal Revenue Code, to understand very, very complicated, multi-business, trust planning. I mean, I work with CPAs and high-level attorneys all the time, and they knew I was the guy. They were the guy for other stuff. I was the guy for this type of planning. You know, I had my skill set that even these I worked with a former USC professor who has 3 law degrees, and he's like, you're a freaking savant. So that's my gift. So I took that skill set, and once I found this, I applied it to learning this, and I get massive results. I have a lot of flaws, but this, I know I'm extremely good at it. I'm so freaking good at it. So that's my gift, and I got to share it with the world, man, because it's so helpful. I'm changing lives like that. Got to do it, man. It's so helpful. Humanity needs this. I'm showing you guys this stuff on trauma. You guys don't realize how common this is. How after you get on the other side, when you understand the subconscious and you do this and you heal yourself and you get a lot of self-awareness and your intuition gets a lot stronger, you start seeing suffering everywhere. You see people who are struggling everywhere because you know what's going on. You see the signs, and yeah, very common. Can you link the books? Yeah, so let me do that right now. Here's you might be talking about my ebook. I'm gonna put a link after this is done. I'm gonna go back in and put the link for the video in. Now for the ebook, let me show you this, because I should have done this at the beginning, but you know, I'm learning and growing. I'm getting better at this. Let me show you this real quick. All right, so go to my webpage here. This will be ready in 2 to 4 weeks, probably closer to 4. Intermastering.com, free ebook. Enter your email. You'll get it when it's ready. Probably 3 weeks. And here's what you get. So I'll show you the table of contents. Get on the waiting list now for how the subconscious mind works, why it keeps you stuck. You're going to know the overall fundamentals of why how your subconscious mind works. And you feel this resistance. Man, why is it so hard? Why do I have anxiety? Why is it so hard to do this stuff that I'm procrastinating? You know, why do I have anger in me? You know, all this other stuff. Understanding your anxiety, limiting beliefs, procrastination, self-sabotage at a subconscious level. What's really going on? So let me show you the table of contents here. And this, you know, I talk about these concepts through my videos, but I'm putting it all in one place, concise for you guys. And let's see. So this will take me a second, but not too much longer. Okay, I think this is it. It's okay. There you go. All right. So this is what we go over. Our brain pursues the familiar, avoids. This is motivations. We like familiar, we avoid unfamiliar. Stronger, we pursue pleasure. Strongest, we avoid pain. Anything you're avoiding, you don't want to approach that attractive girl. You're procrastinating. You feel resistance, anxiety. It's all about avoiding pain. Your brain perceives potential pain if you do that thing. It perceives a downside. It doesn't want you to feel that, even if it means there may not be pain, just there may be. The potential's there. Your brain says, I don't want you to feel that pain. I don't want you to risk that pain. Don't do it. And now you have all this resistance, limiting beliefs, anxiety, etc. And you're like, why am I stuck? Why can't I do this? Why is it I start doing stuff and I can't sustain it? And then I just go back to my old couch potato ways or whatever. Well, there's a very good reason for that with how our subconscious mind is wired. Look at evolutionary psychology. You know, our brains evolved when we were cavemen for hundreds of thousands of years. That's the environment our brains adapted for. It's only been the last, you know, civilization last 10,000 years or so. And then modern society, you know, been around 100 years, 150, whatever. You know, we have, that's not enough time for our brain to evolutionarily to adapt. So our brain has adapted for these caveman times, and now we're in modern society and there's a conflict. It served us in those caveman times, but it's adapted for that, not for now. And so there's issues. You can fix these issues to a massive degree. So our brain uses pleasure to cover pain. That's where addiction comes in. So it's going to talk about all these. This is just the table of contents, how our subconscious programs develop. This isn't going to go like super deep into stuff. It's going to give you a good foundational knowledge. That's the point of this ebook. So you understand stuff. So I'm not going to be quoting like this study and that study and make it like, you know, a PhD thesis. But it's going to explain this so you understand these concepts. How our subconscious programs develop in childhood, what's going on, how our subconscious affects our behavior versus our conscious mind and what we think cognitively. How does that affect our behavior? Which one's more powerful? You know, honestly, you got to focus on both, but subconscious is actually 95% of behavior is dictated by our subconscious. You know, how these programs affect us as adults. I'm going to talk about getting triggered. When something on the outside world is a match for your program, it spikes the feeling tied to the program. And we're, you know, we also talk about, you know, there's some stuff you just learned as a kid and it's just a habit now. You observe your dad doing it. You said, okay, my dad, how do I survive in this world? Well, look at what my dad's doing or my mom's doing. Okay, I copy that. And it's just an automatic thing for you now. I mean, that's subconscious too. But the stuff that really keeps you stuck is the stuff that has trauma tied to it, that has painful emotions tied to that subconscious program. That's what really screws people up. That's, you know, that getting that out and putting the good in, that's my world. 5 core traumas. There's only 5 types of core traumas. Toxic shame, which is you're not good enough, not belonging or fitting in, you cannot get or have what you want or keep it. Unresolved anger, resentment, bitterness, rage. We're talking trapped, not just momentary, but you don't feel safe. How the four of these 5 traumas, everything but anger triggers, it can trigger anxiety. How and why? What's anxiety about? The motivational archetypes. You stay small, stay safe, avoid pain, don't take risks. That's your guy that lives, or guy or girl that lives an average mediocre life, and they're trying to avoid pain. They want security and safety. They don't want to take risks because when they fail, they feel horrible, etc. Some super successful people who are honestly a wreck, but they're pursuing success to avoid toxic shame and other painful bad subconscious programs that they feel at the surface, at some level. They're pursuing success because they're saying, if I get this success, then I will no longer feel like a piece of crap. Now I'm successful. Now I should be good enough. Unfortunately, it doesn't work. Outside success does not change your internal subconscious programs, nor does it resolve trauma. You got to go inside and fix your trauma in order to feel good enough. And so this is where you get Kurt Cobain or Marilyn Monroe. They get massive success. All the getting any attractive person they want, almost, just attractive members of the opposite sex throwing themselves at them, millions of dollars, sold out rock concerts, living the dream, and yet they're miserable and they have, a very unfortunate end. That's these people pursuing success in order to feel good enough because they feel terrible inside. Last, this is the one we want. You're already good enough. Now you're just chasing your dreams. You're pursuing pleasure. You don't have toxic shame in you. You're not trying to avoid pain. You're not moving forward to avoid pain. You just don't have the trauma in you. You believe in yourself. You believe in your ability and value. Well, what now? Okay, I'm awesome. I can do anything and persist until I get it. There's things that I want to do. Let's go out and kick ass. Let's achieve my dream. And if you watch my video, The Alpha Mindset, on my YouTube channel, I show Arnold Schwarzenegger and others. They're just chasing their dreams. They're asked, why do you do this? And they're like, it feels great. I'm chasing my dream. I love this. This is awesome. That's the best place to get. That's what I'm doing now. So you're going to understand this. You're going to understand why you're motivated to do what you do, why you're held back, why you're stuck, why you avoid certain things, why you have these fears and anxieties. Number 12, procrastination. Number 13, limiting beliefs. Number 14, self-sabotage. Why do you self-sabotage? So we're going to go through all that because this behavior, people are like, why do I do this? They're mystified. They don't know. You're going to know after you get this ebook. So go to innermasculine.com, just upper right corner, click free ebook. And when it's ready, enter your email in. When it's ready, you get it, no charge. And now you have a lot more understanding as to why you struggle. So let's see, any other comments? I think that's all. And so that is our show for today, ladies and gents. Trauma, it's this hidden thing that causes massive problems. It's not just, you just need to think different. You just need to do the work. For some people, if they don't have trauma, yeah, absolutely. And guess what? Even when you clear your trauma, you still got to do the work. I'm not saying you don't need to do the work. But the trauma keeps you from doing the work. It just messes people up massively, and it's extremely common. They said 1 in 11 people had 6 out of 10 severe indicators. One of those ACE indicators is enough to really cause you problems. A parent in jail, whatever, that can really mess up your childhood. 1 in 11 people have 6. How many have just 1? Trauma is very common. It's a plague in our society. There is a way. Now, again, consult your medical professional. I find bad subconscious programs, get them out, replace it with unconditional love, self-belief, etc. Those things I told you about. But there are cures out there for trauma. There are ways to treat it, and once you do and put the good stuff in, it makes a massive difference. So the funny thing is, when you do self-hypnosis, other methodologies, what you finally realize is that you're actually doing it to yourself. In hypnosis, I'm not healing the person. I'm guiding the person to heal themselves. So what that leads you to, once you realize, oh, and now like you'll listen to some audio tapes and do self-hypnosis and heal yourself. The self-hypnosis just guides you through the process of healing yourself. Well, once you see that process and you realize what's going on, you realize, oh man, I'm the one healing myself. I'm doing this. And so that's going to lead me into my tagline, which is, ladies and gentlemen, more gentlemen, because it is intermasculine. Any ladies are welcome. You can heal yourself, and you do have more power than you know.